So I just heard about Wayward Realms, a new game being developed by a studio that has worked on a number of Elder Scrolls games, I believe Daggerfall and Arenas, and fans of the Elder Scrolls franchise are somewhat excited. It's still early days. It's an ambitious project, but we've had other ambitious projects disappoint us with how much they could actually achieve before. But there is one aspect of this game that I really want to touch upon, because it's something that I've thought about for a very long time, and I think it's kind of a big deal. If they get it right, it's kind of a big deal, and we this is the precipice of something possibly very exciting. I want you to think of the smartphone. No, I want you to think of the cell phone. You see, the cell phone had a very interesting process of evolution. When it began, it was this bulky thing that only existed for its utilitarian uses, being able to contact people at a distance. By the late 90s, cell phones had become more portable, more lightweight, and even offered more functions than what previous cell phones could do. And let's be honest, those ones, I classify them as cell phones, but they're more like telephones. You know what I'm saying? Some of them are just like portable telephones instead of big. So a cell phone combined a pager and a telephone and allowed you to send text messages, call people, receive calls, etc. The screen was green and black at the time. You see, cell phones had a limitation, and all technology faces this issue, that technology is limited to the focus upon which it is developed on, right? Does that make sense? Like, the focus that they had when they were making the tech, that's the limit to which the tech can evolve, right? That is what's going to determine the limit to which the technology can evolve. And this is clearly shown in cell phones, because if you look at cell phones, bro, early, like mid 2000s, we kind of had reached a limit for the evolution of cell phone technology, and so different manufacturers were trying different things, right? Some manufacturers were changing the form of the cell phone, giving us the flip phone, right? But in that instance, you were trading off durability for the sake of fashionability, for the sake of design, right? And that's a common conflict in technology, form versus function. This is the reason why you'll never find robots that look like people in modern day era. They can be uncanny, like a mannequin come to life, but a robot that looks like a people, like this is a sci-fi film, does this dream of electric sheep? Like, that's highly unlikely. And the reason is form versus function. There's a manga called Origin. I highly suggest you read it. It's really good. It's a science fiction manga about sentient robots. And basically, it's a society of robotics. And this one genius roboticist creates a small group, a handful of sentient, intelligent robots that, unlike every other robot being built, actually looks like a human. Like, you would not be able to tell that this thing is a robot. And nobody has been able to overcome that issue of form versus function. And this genius roboticist did, but he couldn't be bought by the corporation, so they killed him. And it's a very interesting story. I highly suggest you check it out to learn more about that conflict of form versus function. Anyway, so the cell phone develops based on what we're focusing on, right? The Nokia E series focused on making it a business phone, a phone with a lot of business functions. And, I don't really know what it did, to be honest with you. I was a kid at the time, but I remember that was what the marketing was centered around. Then you had phones like the N-Gage that was centered around gaming, right? And they would be precursors to things like the PSP, the Switch, the Steam Deck, okay? So you can see how technology is limited evolution-wise. It's limited to the focus, right? And so when Blackberry came through, reinventing the core focus of cell phones, the reason they existed in the first place, socialization. When they came through with a focus on socialization and reinventing it, bro, like, let's give Blackberry some props. They kind of created the modern social media age that we have. The way a lot of modern social media works was blueprinted by Blackberry. You look at WhatsApp, bro. WhatsApp is Blackberry, is BIS, bro, or BBM. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what WhatsApp is. The whole statuses thing, all of that shit came from those guys. Those are the innovators. Okay, so there is some cred that needs to be credit where credit is due, Blackberry. Anyway, coming back to what I'm talking about, right? So this game, right? This game that is being created by this Elder Scrolls team called Wayward Souls, I believe. It's interesting because they mention how one of their ambitions is to create and program an in-game game master. This is intense. What they're talking about is intense because roleplay is something that can be facilitated by imagination. A good RPG is one in which you don't have to imagine much to facilitate the roleplay. Okay? And so for a game like Skyrim, even if you break the rules by adding in mods, etc., you can still have a linear roleplay. The problem is you're relying heavily on your imagination. You understand? It can still be immersive, but you're relying heavily on your imagination to fill in those blanks, right? But when you've got a game master in the game, no matter what you do, the game master can be reactionary. Now, obviously, you know, I don't expect them to get it perfect. I don't expect them to create a sentient intelligence inside the game that will create a story. But I think of Sword Art Online. They mention how there's this whole storyline with this AI that's kind of like the game master, in which it has basically got an egregore of human storytelling as a reference inside of it, this AI, right? And what it does is it'll change this MMO, right? It's an MMORPG. It'll change landscape and give out quests based on this organic storytelling. The coders, the developers don't actually have to give the game any updates. The developers don't actually have to write any new quests, because this thing, using the entirety of humanity's storytelling as a frame of reference, will always react to the players in the world and create stories for them. If you are someone who's only played RPG games, like offline RPG games, and then you go onto an MMORPG, it's an interesting contrast how you go from being the protagonist of the story to being less than average. Because even the average guy is doing better at the game than you are, because you're a noob. You just got here. You see what I'm saying? And it's like, no matter their best efforts, the world itself makes me feel like a baby. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, a lot of times, like, I played Elder Scrolls Online recently, I played Black Desert, and a lot of times I just feel like I don't matter. Like, I could be gone, like, my actions don't matter in this world, you know? You know how one of the promises for Cyberpunk was branching storylines and you could affect the quests in unorthodox ways? That would have influenced the game in a way that, like, completely has you circumvent everything they had planned for if you take it the normal way. In MMORPGs, you don't have that. You don't have that kind of agency. The quest you're doing, 1,000 other people have done this quest. You know, it's like nothing has impact. But in a scenario where you've got an artificial intelligence that can actively write stories based on the functions of everyone, based on what everyone in the world is doing, it's like, if you're that one guy who's just too curious and you stumble upon some fucking secret in some fucking dungeon, it's like the entire world could change because of you. Imagine if you caught that on stream. It unlocks a new story thing that the AI has been cooking up. Like, that is fucking brilliant. Back in the days of cell phone technology, at first, the curve of technological evolution was one with precedence. The cell phones were too big, we've got to make them smaller, right? They're black and white screens. And just like on TV screens, you know, if we make them color, the color products are probably going to sell better. So there was a line of precedence for all the technological limitations that they faced at one point. But then they reached the realm of the unknown. Once they reached the limitation, they reached the realm of the unknown and all had to experiment. And it's because of Blackberry that we have the world that we have today, with social media and smartphones being the way they are today, with design and everything. Now, I wager that this game, if they get this game master mechanic right, could be the blueprint for something incredible. A new focus for creating open world RPG games, let alone MMORPG games, where the game never ends, the immersion never breaks. I mean, this is obviously a hyperbolic, exaggerated goal, but bro, anything in the realm of that would be phenomenal. Let me just say that, phenomenal. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make this video. It's a bit long, but like, wow, bro. I really wasn't expecting this. Like, as soon as I heard, you know, Jake Baldino say this in that Game Ranks video, I'm just like, this is big. This could change the face of gaming entirely. Like, imagine a Far Cry villain who is an AI and can actively and organically change their tactics and what their goals are, their ambitions are, based on what you want, what you're doing, and how you're fucking up their business. Like, damn, boy, this is gonna be big, and I'm so excited.
So, is it true what they're saying about you? Perhaps you could show me what really happens when a Dragonborn comes?
Bruh, chill.